Welcome to another video. So, don't have any notes for today's conversation. I just want to have a little conversation with you guys, and it might be a little funny. I'm thinking of doing a Drag a Man to the Altar series. That's what I'm thinking of doing. I don't know if that's me doing too much, but hey, so we're going to have a little conversation. First, before I get started, let me say that though some of the things I might say may be funny, my goal in having this conversation with you is to, one, bring you into repentance with the Lord, okay? And number two is for you to be aligned with his will for your life outside of your feelings, okay? So without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. This weekend, I was having a conversation with my husband, and every now and then the Lord just reminds me of some of the foolish things that I used to get myself into, and there are many. So I have a lot to talk about with it. Like, I have conversations that could never end because I used to do some foolish stuff. And not only that I used to do some foolish stuff, I didn't have anyone, like, you guys know my family and I weren't very close, are not very close, weren't very close, especially when I first moved to Houston. So I kind of just moved here trying to make, just imagine trying to pave your own way. So I got myself into, girl, all kind of crazy stuff, all kind of crazy stuff. And I was reminded this one particular time, which I'm going to tell you of both of the stories today, and maybe those stories will kind of bring about other experiences, and we'll laugh and chat, and hopefully you get a lesson that you can apply to your life as well. So I was at the Greyhound station, actually. So I was going to visit a family member. I can't even think of who I was going to visit. And y'all know I was in a crazy relationship at that time, but I knew at this point it wasn't a relationship that I needed to stay in. I knew I didn't need to stay in it, but I didn't know how to get out of it. So I was always, I always had my eye peeled on who had their eyes peeled on me. But this particular day, girl, I'm at the Greyhound station. It was me and Kylan. Kylan was a little baby. I mean, he was probably like 4. So that goes to show you how long ago this was. So he was like 4. And I remember a guy walked up to me and was like asking me that I need some help. And I was like, oh no, I noticed he was kind of, he was all right. At that time, I was still looking at people, if people were all right or not. I never really been like a big person into looks, like, oh, he fine. I never really been that girl. And it's probably because the first boyfriend that I ever had, everyone else thought he was cute, yet he didn't treat me so well. So I kind of learned very quickly from that experience. And I was like, oh, okay, he's all right. So we exchanged numbers. I left out of town, came back into town. I come back into town, and quite a bit of time had passed. And it probably was me, like, kind of stalling because I was kind of still in a relationship. Just, when those little break period come, you like, I got somebody better, and you just kind of go do your own thing. I know the Lord was planning to give me something better. I did know that. I just, like I said, didn't know how I would get to it. So I remember one day, now this guy, I'm just going to paint a little picture for you just in case you don't live in Houston, so you don't know. I live almost 2 hours on this side of Houston, okay? I live 2 hours on the north side of Houston. This man stays all the way on the south side of Houston. So it takes, especially in traffic, after work traffic, girl, it's looking like 2 hours, okay? It's looking like a long drive. It's looking like you don't even have friends. When you live in Houston, baby, you don't even have friends who live on the other side of town because y'all don't see each other. It's that far, especially when we start talking about traffic. So I was never a person to really do all that driving. But this day I said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to drive to see him. And I'll just spend the night that way because I was working downtown at the time. So either way, any direction I went, my job was far. But it wasn't that far away from where he was, even though it was still far. But I said, you know what? I work downtown, so I'm going to just go. I'm going to spend the night over there. Surely he'll let me stay the night. Okay, cool. So he tells me, I'm looking at my gas tank. First of all, this should have been the first red flag. I'm looking at my gas tank and I'm like, I really can't afford to drive over there. I tell him like, it's a long drive. He tells me he's going to pay for my gas. Girl, I drive all the way there. We meet up at the gas station. First red flag, I should have turned around. He did not pay for my gas. I guess he didn't know that I had this Buick Rendezvous at the time. So I guess he didn't know that I drove a truck, and maybe he didn't budget for all of that. And he did not pay for my gas. And I was like, okay. And instead of walking away at that time, I just proceeded. So I'm like, okay, we're going to go back to your house and, chill out or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, he's stalling. And I didn't really understand why he was stalling. He was trying to give me all these stories, telling me kind of where he worked at, because remember, I didn't know very much about him, which was a part of me being silly. Like, why are you going to someone's house that you didn't know anything about? And I'm gonna link for y'all that last relationship video I talked about when I went to that man's house. He picked me up from the house that I was at, brought me to his house, and then his girlfriend came home and had my stuff all over the lawn. Okay? So from that point on, I never let anybody just drive me to their house. But you also shouldn't be going to random people's houses. And you also shouldn't let random people come to your house. But like I said, I was very young at the time, and I didn't really have anyone to tell me any better. And maybe I didn't have anyone to tell me any better because maybe they didn't know any better either. Okay. So I get to the house and I'm like, okay, there's people here. Maybe he has roommate. I had a roommate at the time. So I was like, okay, it's not a big deal. There was a man there and there was a woman there. And I noticed, not that they weren't friendly, but it was kind of like, it was like the guy who brought me there, it wasn't really his house. Like if you're a roommate, like you have a place, you still got a place in the home that's yours. I was like, okay, that's weird. So he was like, well, here's the bathroom. You can get yourself ready for bed. And then here's the room we're going to be sleeping in. And I'm like, okay. So girl, I get to the room and I see inside the room is a baby crib. And we're laying on the floor. He comes in the room and we're laying on the floor. And I immediately got so disgusted. And he's like, oh, you got to give people a chance. Like, sometimes people go through hard times. And I don't know, my spirit just got agitated. Like, no. You can go through a hard time by yourself, but don't drag me into a hard time. Him not even knowing, baby, I already got a hard time back in my house. I already looked at my gas needle and barely got over here. What do you mean? And some people, and you might be those people, would have stayed there in that moment and slept with that man. You know what I did? I said, I have to go to my car, and I left and never came back. I slept in my car that night. I slept in my car in the parking garage at my job. But I began to realize, like, and I think this was what brought the conversation up last night. God won't just hand you any old thing. He won't hand you any old thing on a garbage lid. And some people, because I'm about to tell you the next story, some people will have you believing that the Lord sent them, and you're not listening to all the signs that says, no, he didn't. So I don't know if we fast forwarding or rewinding. I know it was during the same time because I was still working at the same job and I was living in the same place. And I had the same car that I could barely afford. So remember that video when I told y'all I started, like, the Lord told me I was going to get married. So I started going like dating websites and stuff. Still being silly, inviting people to my house. But I also had a roommate at the time. So, she would be like my little checkpoint. Anyway, this boy comes to my house and he said he came back. He came the next day. I don't remember. It just, things start happening very quickly. And I do remember he was quirky. He was quirky. And I was also doing foolish things like reading horoscopes at the time. So I'm asking the man, oh God, oh Father. And now oh God, I hear it. Thank you, Holy Spirit. And I'm asking the man all kind of crazy questions like, when's your birthday? And I remember him being annoyed about me saying that. Because I've still, I was on a worship team at that time. So what you doing reading horoscopes and you say you love the Lord? That's what there's a video loading right now. You got to be careful of people who say they love the Lord with their mouth, but they deny the power of God. And at that time, I was definitely denying the power of God. I was denying the fact that, no, if God said that he would bring me a spouse, I don't have to go out here searching for. I was denying it. But anyway, this man was looking for his wife. I mean, he was searching for his wife. And I pray that he found her. I really do pray. He was very nice. But I remember one day he said, well, I can't come over because my sister and I's car broke down. Can I come and get him? And I was like, immediately I was disconnected from the entire relationship, because you telling me the Lord said that you're my husband. Well, I'm broke. I don't know if you know that I'm broke, but I'm broke and I'm broke down. So surely the Lord wouldn't send me a man who's also broke and broke down to partner with me in my foolishness. Surely he wouldn't do that. And some of you are saying that this is my mate. This is my man. This is my man. And you're ignoring all of the signs. And me and my husband were laughing because by the time I got to my husband, child, I had made up my mind. I had no tolerance for none of it. There wasn't even a little bit of compromise left in me. Oh God, thank you, Jesus. There wasn't even a little bit of compromise left in me. Before then, I was willing to compromise. I was willing to say, you know what? He can be good, but he don't really need to be that good. I was taking this 5-course meal out of the trash. That's what I was willing to do. That's what it looks like when you're compromising. But by the time I met my husband, child, had been through enough. I said, Y'all remember that walk-in conversation that we had? We had a conversation in the cooler. He said that he was never going to get married again. And I said, okay, you should. I sent him a text message when I heard him say that. And I said, you could have let me know that before you let the girl know that. And he pulled me into the walk-in, not literally pulled me, but we went into the walk-in together, which is like an industrial refrigerator, right? And we're in there, and he said, you never know, Tanzania, you might be the one to change my mind about marriage. And I looked him dead in his eye, and I said, I am not in the business of changing anybody's mind about me. And we were laughing about it yesterday because he doesn't know. And some of the stories he won't know just because I have to wait until they organically come up, right? He didn't know at that point what I meant by saying I'm not in the business of changing anybody's mind. I know what it looks like. I know how much time you can spend. I know how many of your years you can waste. That's why I can sit right here and tell you indefinitely it's not worth it. I know I've seen women. I was the woman wasting time, wasting years, running behind a man. And God's like, no, it's not it. That's not it. And then when God does give you someone, you haven't done any prep work. You haven't done no prep. You haven't done no work. Imagine me on these dating sites running after all these crazy men and never taking the time to do the work. What does the work look like? I make a bunch of videos for you guys showing you what the work looks like. There was some things on the inside of me that I had to get taken care of, because guess what? There still was going to come a time that I had the job where I met my husband. What if I did none of that work and I did not become a woman worthy of being this man's wife? And I do. I thought about that this weekend, and it's a question that bears asking, because there were so many traps. The enemy tried to trap me so many times. And really what he tries to do is trap you with your own desires. And you know how you get around his traps? You come to a place where you say, Father, I want your will. If not my will, but yours. Not my will, but yours. When I came to a place when I was like, imagine somebody saying that and you continue talking to them. Imagine someone saying, you know at this point, God has called you to marriage. God has even showed you a baby that you will once have. Yet you continue to entertain men who don't want marriage. Imagine that. Imagine how stupid that is. And I refused. I was stupid. Okay, I was doing stupid. I had done stupid long enough, and I said, I'm not going to be stupid anymore. I'm not doing it. So if he said he don't want marriage, obviously, Lord, he isn't the one. And I walked away with both. I skipped away, okay? I didn't quit my job. I kept working at the job and mind my business, because he said what he said. We're not running after men. And I said this before, and I'm going to say this again. The moment you sleep with a man, yes, I believe that you should wait until marriage to have sex, because that is what the Bible says. And you say, Tanzania, I already got kids. I've already done this before. It doesn't matter. You can stop now. The man that is not your husband, you need to stop sleeping with him, because you'll never be able to come to these sort of conclusions. You know how I was able to change my mind and come to these sort of conclusions is I changed my mind. I said, this isn't working. And by the grace of God, God covered me in that. But this isn't working. You doing the exact same thing. You keep doing it. You see it's not working, and you continue on. You sleep with every man you meet. And I can't say that I'd be able to sit here in front of you today had I been sleeping with all these people, because I would have got caught up somewhere. See, I was naive. I was real foolish. I didn't understand that you actually can't just be friends with a man. I didn't understand that, no, men don't just invite you to their home because you're so beautiful and they want to talk to you. No, they don't. They want to sleep with you. I didn't understand that. I had nobody to explain that to me. So I had to learn that the hard way. And by the grace of God, I was able to get out of situations. Like I told you, when I went to that man's house, we're sitting here on the floor in a baby's room, and it's not even your baby. Well, I don't even know if it was his baby. I think it was the people's baby because it was their house. And you think that we're about to sleep together, and you don't even have a bed. And some of you are laying down with men who don't even have a bed, who don't have a pot to pee in, or a window to throw it out of, or a car to even go get the meal to eat, to produce the pee. Look, or a drink to produce the pee. Am I saying that? And I am not saying that the man that God is going to send you has to have some specific sort of job. But you better believe that the man that God is sending you is not laying up on nobody's couch, doing nothing. I'm not saying not laying up on nobody's couch, not working, not trying to, make better for his life. That's not what I'm saying. But just laying up on the couch, doing nothing day in and day out, that's not your man. Stop saying it's your man. That you have to, girl, you going up there, you're filling out the job applications, you got him the job, you got to wake him up to work, you bringing him to work. That's not your man. Not your man in this form. He need to be renewed. He need to be restored. I'm not saying he needs to be some executive that's not what I'm saying. I told you guys before, my husband was not making a ton of money when we was working at the same job. So I about know how much his checks were. This is not about money. It's not about money. And when people say a man who lacks vision, I like to even be careful with that, because I told you in just a few moments ago, that man had vision. He knew that he wanted him a wife, and he thought it was gonna be me. And it wasn't. So definitely qualify the vision. But a man just laying on the couch doing absolutely nothing, that's not going to be him. That's not going to be. Stop trying to make that him. I don't care. If you're not married to this man and you got 4 kids, stop trying to make it be him. It's not him. And if you would stop sleeping with him, you would come to the realization that it's not him as well. Okay? Well, I'm sitting here. What I was just thinking of, I don't think I ever told y'all this either. I don't know what kind of conversation this is. Girl chat. So I was working. I told you I used to be on all them little dating sites. I'm telling you, leave it alone, sis. Leave it alone. The Lord can do it, especially in this day and age. Now, this was back when. This was like 2012, 2013, 2014. This was back when. Things have gotten a lot crazy, and I would leave them alone. Okay, I will leave them alone. I'm just saying I will leave them alone. Men don't get on those kind of sites in search of anything but a good time. And sometimes I'm not being foolish. I'm just saying this. Sometimes they'll be in search of a good time, and they'll have a God time. They'll have a God encounter, because God can encounter you anyway. But I'm saying primarily the thought in the man's mind when he gets on those type of websites is a good time. And the only thing that's going to stop his good time is you with your made up mind that I'm not sleeping with you. And you're not about to waste my time. Not only am I not sleeping with you, but you're not wasting my time. I'm not about to keep going on dates with you and ain't going nowhere just so you can have me on your arm. No. So one day I decided to go on a date with this guy. I don't know if I ever told y'all this story before. I went on a date with this guy. He picked me up from my house, and we actually went to church. Apparently, I didn't learn my lesson. He picked me up and went to church. And my thing was like, oh, we're going to church. So, man of God, I'm warning you because no one warned me. Man of God, I invited him to church. Okay. Church. So I thought it was all cool. There's no way that we could be going to church together and this man could be crazy. I was so naive. So we went to church the first day. We had a good time. This man immediately, oh, you're my wife. He was African. I don't know from what part. It doesn't matter. I was going to a church that was primarily African at the time. I believe Nigerian. And I was like, oh, this is good. He was new to America. So I was like, okay, even if I don't like you, I'm sure you'll find, brotherhood here. You know what I mean? And I don't know why I decided to do that, because there was a lot of men at the church who, they had their ticket in line. And my crazy self, I was so focused on the person who was in front of me, who I shouldn't have been focused on, that I was passing up good godly men every single Sunday. More than every single Sunday, 2-3 days a week. Passing them up. Paying them no mind. Because I was fooled up with this man who wouldn't even, pay my bus fare. Imagine that. So anyway, I brought this man to church. Like I said, good old time, drop me off at home. Oh, you're going to be the woman I'm going to marry. Mind you, I know at this point the Lord has told me that I'm going to get married. So I'm looking at my husband in every nook, cranny, every garbage can, obviously every dump truck, everywhere. I'm looking for my husband, right? I can laugh at myself. And that's why I can come here and have these conversations. I'm telling you, I was crazy. So the next day, he asked me what's my favorite food. And I don't know if he thought I was just saying that just to say it. I like African food. I love food. Okay. So he was like, I'm going to take you to this African restaurant that I like. And, I'm going to take you to the African restaurant that I like. So I'm like, okay. We go. He comes the next day. He picks me up. Did he pick me up or did I drive? Actually, I think we actually went to church, and then I don't remember. It's been a while, obviously. Okay. So we end up at the African restaurant. No, it had to be the next day because his friends were actually there too. So his friends met us there at the restaurant, and I noticed one of the ladies, she was being very rude to me, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So long story short, they start having a conversation about marriage, and they're like, oh, you're gonna marry her, and You know how it is. You think you're so cute, you look doing all at the table, and they're like, girl, you're gullible and they know it. And he was talking, and they were talking about like, where he's from, in Africa, women kind of like, they follow suit. Like the men get to do whatever they want to do, and you just get taken care of, and you just play your part. And girl, that left a bad taste in my mouth, because that's not how this goes. So you just think you get to roll, you get to have other women and all this kind of stuff, and I'm just gonna be sitting at home? No, you got the wrong woman. So I sat there because I have a video uploading for you. I understand situations, okay? I understand situations, and because I understand situations, I also understand how things can get dangerous if you be crazy. And remember, this man brought me there. Had to bring me there because that's the only way I would have kept my composure, else I would have just got up from there. And he knows where I live, so I had to be very careful at the way that I am behaving at this point. Lesson learned, but I have to be very careful. Never let him in my house, but he knows at least the vicinity of which I live. So girl, he drops me off back at home. I block him. Instead of saying anything, I block him on all social medias. I block his number. He's creating new Facebook accounts. I'm annoyed. I move on about my business. I don't know, some time passed. I'm at work. I'm working at Panera Bread at this time. And I pick up my phone. I'm working the cash register. I pick up my phone. And I have the most obscene pictures on my phone. No, that's not what I'm doing. So I don't know. I would not expect to see those kind of pictures on my phone. And I mean, they're coming by the boatload. Girl, don't you know this man had posted an ad? He posted an ad of me on Craigslist saying, hey, I'm desperate for, it was a very nasty and mean ad. And men responded. And I actually remember one man in particular who sent me a picture that was totally inappropriate. And I told him, actually someone who I was going out with posted this ad. It's not real. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Needless to say, I stopped going on dates with people. I stopped. I wasn't bringing nobody to my house. And when I would let someone take me on a date, I would go very far away from my house. And if after the first date, I noticed that I was digging in the trash can, I didn't try to make a meal from the trash can. I left it alone. So I said all that to say, by the time I met my husband, I was almost calloused, okay? I was happy. The joy of the Lord was with me. But I was literally happy with Jesus alone. I was happy going home every day singing the praises of the Lord alone. And yes, I did begin to realize, because remember, I'm honest with myself, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Still, my desire was for a mate. I realized that I was alone, that I did need companion. I needed companionship in a way that was like covering, you know what I mean? But I wasn't looking for a good time. I was looking for purpose. I was looking for God, where do you want me? What do you want me to do? And I understand that I can't trot this journey alone. And a lot of people wouldn't have taken that route. What people start doing is, one, I had a son at the time, so making their children their spouses. And I don't mean talking about any like crazy stuff like that, like no freaky stuff. I'm talking about making your children your spouses, as in putting them in the role of a spouse. I never did that to my son. He always remained my son. I never made him feel like he was the man of the house, because baby, he wasn't the man of the house. He was never sleeping in the bed with me, because baby, you ain't sleeping in the bed with me. So I was preparing all along for a man to come in and have like a place without having to fight with my son. I find that a lot of women do that. You're single, and then you're single for all this time. The kids are all you have, and they're all I need. And then you get a man, and then the kids hate the man because you made them your man, and they're really fighting for a position. I never set it up like that intentionally, because God was showing me, don't do that. Don't do that. But I said all that to say, by the time my husband came along, girl, foolishness. Girl, get out of here with that foolishness. We're not doing no foolishness. Very cut and dry. I was unwavering. And you know what? Oddly enough, men are actually attracted to you being unwavering. A man ain't looking for no easy wife. So, girl, oh yeah, he tried to sleep with me on the first day, and I ain't sleep with him on the first day, and you sleep with him on the second date. It sounds good. To you, it sounds good to sit around people who think that sounds good, but it doesn't sound good. And it still won't get you the result that you want. Because remember, men are very different from us. You think that sleeping with him is going to, sleeping with him, and then you sleep with him, and then you still get to marry him, and you think that it's going to be this, happy, lucky, we sing kumbaya, life is so good, and it's not. And all the stuff you could have been learning about this man while you were rolling around in the bed on an air mattress, you didn't learn. And now you're miserable. Imagine that. I can only say why, because I was there. And I said, boy, we can't do this. Actually, Lord, I'm not going to date it. When I got those dating sites, when I kicked that man out of my house, I told y'all all this in the video. Kicked that man out of my house, I said, I'm done. I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know. I had some guinea pigs at the time. I must go in the pet store one day and meet him. I don't know how you're going to do it. I started going to church. I started going to a church on this side of town, on my side of town. And I'm like, Lord, I'm even going to church looking for a man. Like, what am I doing? I stopped doing that. I started going to online church. And I'm like, I don't know, Lord. I don't know how you're going to do it. I have no clue how you're going to do it. But I trust you. And I completely surrendered. Not partially. Because I began to look even in the grocery store. It's not like I was looking like, had my tongue out my mouth like, oh, where's my husband? But subconsciously, I was like, Lord, when are you going to do it? Until I wasn't. Until I made up my mind that, God, if you said it, it is so, and I'm going about my business. Because what I'm not going to do is be digging in the trash can. Okay? I don't want you digging in the trash can. Because you ever dug in the trash can that fell in? Some of y'all have fallen in. Imagine you sitting here picking up a man. You sitting here dragging a man off the couch and dragging him to work while you're dating him. And you date him. Let's say you dated him for 10 years. My God, that's a waste of time. You dated him for 10 years and then you married him. And then all of a sudden you thought when you married him, he gonna get up off the couch and take himself to work. No, you just sealed the deal. All you said is, I do to taking you dragging you off this couch and taking you to work, and all the other stuff that comes with. And then while we're talking about this, you know what else happens after you do that? Because a lot of people who are doing that, you're also sleeping with the man. So while y'all dating, y'all rolling around, y'all having yourself a good old time. He's all in his flesh, you all in your flesh, and him in his flesh is actually just, this very heightened desire. And you is like, oh, finally I get my man. And then y'all get married. You finally drug him off the couch enough. Well, he said, man, I really do want this for the rest of my life. Why settle down with a woman who I got to work for, when I had this woman who would just drag me to work? She do everything for me. And then y'all get married. And you know what you stop doing? You stop dropping it like it's hot. You stop rolling around like you was doing before. And then you wonder why this man now, he still want to roll around. Nothing has changed for him. But now your hope is wavered because you actually got what you wanted, which was marriage. But you thought that marriage would change this man's mind, and it didn't. You thought he was going to change because he married you, and he didn't. So now you've stopped dropping it like it's hot. Now that it's actually a mandate, now you're actually in covenant. And you stop dropping like it's hot. And guess what? Homeboy over here, baby, y'all been dropping like it's hot together for the last 10 years. He's still going to do his thing. With or without you. Now you're heartbroken. Now you're mad. Now we're going through this whole long cycle, this whole long journey. A lot of time you got kids in there and everything's just a mess. All for why? Because you couldn't keep your legs closed. It's that simple. You couldn't keep your legs closed. You couldn't stay out of the bed long enough to listen. And I'm sorry, because I know you church people, the church has told you this, but they haven't gave you explanations. And that's okay, because God doesn't give too many explanations as to why he said no. He just said no. But since he has explained it to me, since I walked through it, I'm going to sit here and give you a little explanation. What it looks like. It looks like your life going to be a hot mess. Don't do it. Because you will get to a place where you want God so bad, where you want holiness so bad, that you actually could do without this man. You could deal without this man. So wouldn't you rather get to that place before you're in covenant, before you're literally in covenant, before you're literally tied to this man for the rest of your life? Wouldn't you rather that than to drag him down the aisle thinking that he gonna change? We're not dragging men down the aisle, okay? I don't know where this conversation was going. I don't know. I'm just having a little girl chat with y'all. I know this is an ongoing conversation. I could talk about this for days, weeks, months, because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like. But you're better than digging in the trash for a man. You're better than that. And you will do better than that. Especially you mothers. You're better than that. And baby, if I have to limp away, I'll never be the same. If I have to limp away from this mess that I created, I'm about to limp away. And you're not married? Y'all just playing around? Girl, limp away. The Lord will restore. He will restore you. Limp away. Limping away was the best decision that I ever made in my entire life. I told y'all this before. I had a picture on my phone, and I'll put the picture on the screen if I can find it. And it was a picture of, cartoon character Jesus, and he had a teddy bear behind his back, and there was a little girl standing in front, and he was telling her to give me that little bear, and she didn't see that behind his back he had a big bear. I kid you not. I had that picture as my screensaver. So every single time I wanted to go back to that trash can relationship, it was my reminder, God, that you have something bigger. You have something better for me. And if bigger for me and better for me is actually me alone, actually me living this thing called life out with just me and you, I surrender to that. I'll take that. I'll take being alone with God, with joy, with peace, with my eternity secure in heaven, than to be out here digging in the trash, living foul because of a man. And I want you to know that it's that serious. Don't let your life go by the wayside for the man. I know I'm going to sit here and say it and you think I'm crazy, but I promise you, it happens more times than you think. And you better than that. You're better than that. You're better than that. As always, if you have a question, ask a question. And I'll see you in the next video.